Well, welcome to Light Up with Shua podcast. I am your host, Shua. So without going into too many details, you can find that out on my website or on other shows. But I don't want to waste any more time because I was looking forward and I'm very excited to have my guest today. Her name is Ambreen, but of course she will introduce herself, who she is, what does she do, and all that. And along that, we will be laughing, so you can laugh with us. And I welcome Ambreen to Light Up with Shua podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Shua. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you. So, Assalamu alaikum and greetings to all the audience who are watching or listening. So, Ambreen, would you like to briefly introduce, give us your full name and what do you do?
Certainly. My name is Ambereen Mirza. I am an educator, I'm a writer, I'm a consultant. I was the immediate past president of a mission-driven nonprofit named Open Global, which our mission was to promote entrepreneurship across, for the Pakistani diaspora. Um, and Before that, let's say I've had many interests and worn many hats. So started my career in financial services. My father was an entrepreneur, so I worked in a family business. So I grew up in a family business. I grew up, uh, I guess, raised by an entrepreneur. So I spent my childhood and my teenage years and college years, and even off and on after college, exposed to the real estate industry, which then led me to the financial services industry. But I think my passion has always been international affairs and history and arts and culture. And I was very
Mm.
fortunate that I got to study international relations and history in at Tufts University. Um, Being born and raised in the US and being I attended an all-girls high school in New England, which was, not terribly diverse at that time. I think I always kind of craved a community, like being surrounded by, looking for people in my community, learning about my community, interacting with my community. And I think that kind of maybe influenced some of my choices for studying. So after leaving finance, I did work in international development at that intersection of business and policy. And, again, looked at many countries, like, approximately 89 countries.
Mm.
And, um, I think what I've always learned is that, every place has its uniqueness, right? And then there's always a familiarity too, everywhere you
Mhm.
go to.
When you say your community, what do you mean by that? Your community?
So that's a very good question, Shua. So, I think that's a question I've never fully answered for myself
Mm,
even, right?
mm,
So,
mm,
I grew up in a predominantly Jewish town. And I remember, kids you know, going to Hebrew school. And so my community was the Muslim community, right? So every Sunday we would go to the Quincy Mosque and I would get to go to Sunday school. And I actually started going to Sunday school before I went to regular school. And so if you ask me, and back then there were also very few Pakistanis in this community,
mm,
I
mm.
feel like my community was the Islamic Center of New England, which had
Mm.
every nationality, and
Okay.
it had Muslim Americans from several generations.
Mm,
And then as I grew older, and I came to college, I was fortunate enough to meet like so many South Asians from so many backgrounds.
mm,
And I was my advisor was Shugata Bose, who was a, very world-renowned historian at Harvard University. But he was my advisor, and I fell in love with South Asian history and culture and interact with all the student groups. And then I felt like, yeah, I'm part of this big South Asian community. And I
mm,
was very involved even after college with so many networking groups that were, promoting South Asian women's leadership. So I
mm,
considered, the Bangladeshi women and the Sri Lankan women, the Nepali women, all of them to be like
mm.
my
Your
community, right?
community. Wow.
Exactly.
Mm,
I feel like I'm kind of lucky, and now I think of myself as a global citizen. So then I covered I think my work took me, has enabled me to cover private equity investment in emerging markets. And I've worked with people from, Southeastern Europe and East Africa and
Hmm.
Central Asia and the Far East. And, I find commonalities with all of, so many whether they're diaspora communities, right? In this country, like they have a strong Greek or Italian
Mhm.
identity, or even when I go overseas and I just see the mosaic of cultures wherever I go. So I feel like, yeah, as a kid, I was like always like looking for my community, and now I seem to find my community everywhere.
Because
I've just appreciated the beauty of like our culture, right? The art, I love the
yeah,
architecture, I
that's
love the
interesting.
clothing, I
Yeah.
love even the language, although my mother, who is an Urdu speaker,
Mm-hmm.
her ancestry is from Delhi,
Mm.
and my father's ancestry was from UP, so they claim to have invented the Urdu language. They always used to say that I actually destroy the Urdu language when I speak in it. But I even love the language, I loved
Mm.
hearing Urdu and
Yeah.
speak,
We will speak a little bit of Urdu with Ambreen later on if she's
sure.
comfortable or
If
she
no one
wants
gets
to.
offended, yeah. If your viewers don't get offended. So
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm sure there are many people who speak, it's not their first language anymore because you're born and brought up here. So it does
yes,
affect. Yeah.
yes,
Anyways, very nice, very nice, very nice to hear that. And of course, we can just dwell on this subject about culture, and it's such a
yes,
rich topic that we
yes,
can continue. And these cultures and the way your background is, and you just mentioned about your parents, now that's another world of rich culture and
yes,
language and food and everything. So
of
we are not
course.
going to go today into that because we have a time limit. I don't think I can challenge Emreen, but let's see what we do
Oh,
today.
you sure can. I know you can.
Okay, okay, Emreen, now tell me about Open Global a little bit. What
Well, I actually joined Open when it used to be known as the Organization of Pakistani Entrepreneurs of North America. And I joined at the time when Open was actually not open to everyone. It was kind of closed, it was just seven charter members in a room. And, they used to meet at different offices. And they would get together. They were very successful technologists and entrepreneurs, and they wanted to help other people in the community also become successful in this
Mm,
sector. And so at that time, I was working at Morgan Stanley during the dot-com boom days and just starting my career. And someone said to me, why don't you just come to one of our meetings? They were just at their first meetings that I would attend, different people would attend and share a business plan, a business pitch, for the purpose of getting feedback as they try to raise investment. Maybe they also help those
mm,
charter members, those original founders would help them raise investment or mentor them. Um, and at that time, my clients were primarily entrepreneurs from the technology sector.
mm,
And so I would run into people that, I thought, hey, this is kind of a very nice network. I also was part of TIE. I
mm,
loved, I think that was kind of in the air. Everyone was talking about entrepreneurship and technology. And I got very involved with helping them launch their first business plan competition. We modeled it after MIT.
okay.
Um, one of the early members raised $100,000 from different investors in the area so that we could give away $50,000 to the best business plan competition. And this was really wonderful to kind of see, not just mentorship, but I think something very like proactive that, hey, you're walking away with a prize, you're getting exposure to the investors,
Mm,
it's to a lot of young people.
mm,
And so my first exposure to Open was as a volunteer at the very beginning of my career. I think what I liked the most was kind of how Open kept evolving. So we started in just Boston, and since that time, we are now across 15 cities, across North America, We have a chapter in London. We have a chapter in Toronto. That's why we're global. We have a MENA
That's why.
chapter. We have members in Pakistan, and then we have lots of friends and champions of Open in places where we don't have chapters. And so now it is truly a global organization, and it stands for the Organization of Pakistani Entrepreneurs, but we have more professionals than entrepreneurs actually. So it's very diverse in terms of um, who is an openite.
So you were president for 2 years, right?
That's right.
So how
Yes.
was that?
It was really it went by in a blink of an eye. Um,
You were busy.
it was, yeah, you were busy with me, right? I don't know where the time
Last year.
went. I just
Yeah.
don't know where the time went.
Yeah.
And I guess I could say I was very active at the chapter level in more than one chapter. I lived in Boston, I've lived in DC. So I'd experienced open at the chapter level. And then during the pandemic, and I think just before the pandemic, I got very active on the global board, first as a secretary, then the pandemic happened. And then it was just hard for nonprofits to meet in person. So we became very active
Online.
in cyberspace, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm very proud that, during such a terrible pandemic, we managed to keep our community together and keep engaging and keep meeting. And we worked our way around this major
That's very good.
pandemic,
Yeah.
and we were able to grow during that time. And
That's good.
so I became president when the pandemic was still like we were kind of in the final phase of the pandemic. The world had not quite opened up yet, so we were still doing virtual programs twice a month. Everything was virtual, and then suddenly things started opening up and becoming hybrid. And I guess my term was really, really busy because once we tasted virtual meetups, I think I saw the value of how it helped build a brand, helped educate people. It brought in new members. It kind of expanded our footprint. So we didn't stop those virtual programs, but we got to experiment with hybrid format. We had a nice hybrid event in Cambridge. We had our annual retreat for the first time in 4 years in Atlanta, and then so it just was constantly busy with just so many activities. We were very flush with activities and ideas. And I think as a result of the activities, ideas breed ideas. That's a lot of
And
initiatives.
especially with the professionals, as you said, and entrepreneurs. And so they were, so these links or this information is on the website, right? People can go and explore what
Oh, yes,
Open
of course.
Global is and what have they done and all. Okay. How would you describe or the entrepreneurs in this organization? Like
Well,
what
I would say
were
they're at every stage, they're at every stage in their career, right? So
Mm,
we have entrepreneurs that they're really just at the idea stage.
mm,
Maybe they have a full-time job and they have an idea, or
mm,
maybe they don't have a full-time job and they're in between job transitions.
mm,
Some of them are very young, they're student entrepreneurs, and some of
mm,
them are people who are retired and starting the next phase in their life.
mm,
And so we have entrepreneurs that have, successfully raised venture capital or private equity funding or even gone public. Um, and then we have entrepreneurs that maybe they're like, your freelancers or
mm,
consultants or, whether they're lawyers or doctors or, they don't need to raise the funding, but it's a very different model. So
mm.
really, I feel like we have representation from all kinds of entrepreneurs.
So it's more like a networking place also, right?
It's
It's a
definitely a network.
connection and
It's a
networking, and
network.
you're
Yes,
getting connected and growing or, you know, uh, giving leads and all that. So that's
absolutely.
very
Yes,
good.
there's an opportunity to do that for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I think this is one of the advantages of volunteering for any organization. One of the, I think, benefits is the skills you learn while you're volunteering.
Hmm.
So I feel that a young person who may want to learn more about entrepreneurship, even if they're not an entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
This is a
Yeah, they
great
can explore.
opportunity to explore so many career paths, right? Or even if let's say they're not interested, like I said, that we have so many professionals, right? So we have people in every sector, from healthcare to financial services to, to insurance, to real estate, to technology, right? So, this is a great place to find a mentor, to ask, to kind of be vulnerable and ask questions. People will sometimes circulate their resume if they're looking for an internship or
That's
a
what I was going to
job.
say, like
Yeah,
mentoring,
internship or a
mentoring.
job.
Yeah. So they
Mentoring.
do mentor those, the
Yes,
professionals are
yes.
ready to mentor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
some of the chapters are actually have very good programs. So like Houston has an emerging leaders program. They even have an emerging leaders retreat. And they kind of groom the next, generation of leaders.
That's
Even
very good. That's
Silicon
important.
Valley had a youth program. And even Boston has a very, very nice mentorship program for people. That mentorship program is open for any age. So sometimes it's, someone who could be in midlife trying to start a brand new career,
Yeah. Change their
trying to
careers.
get to
Yeah.
change, right? So it's never too late to
Yeah.
find a mentor either. It's not that there's an age limit.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely I believe in.
Yes, me too.
Because now I have to believe in that. There's no limit to age or doing anything that you want.